Today on Sports Central, we'll be going over a college football game preview and prediction on the first big Pac-12 matchup coming up in Week 10 of this 2020 season, and that's going to be between Stanford and Oregon. And this is going to be a very important matchup for both these teams. Obviously, for the Oregon side, they're now without Justin Herbert, who was a great quarterback last season, and he went pro after the 2019 season. And now they've got Tyler Shaw taking over the quarterback position, so it should be interesting to see how the quarterback situation is for the Ducks this season. But they're still expected to be a top team in the nation. Meanwhile, for Stanford, they're hoping to have a better season than they did in 2019. They were 4-8 in the 2019 season all around. It was just a terrible year for Stanford, so they're hoping to be much better than that, obviously. And we're going to be going over a college football game preview and prediction on this game. It's going to be on Saturday, November 7th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern in Eugene. So the Ducks will be your home team here in this matchup. Opening spread currently says Oregon by 11.5. So 11.5 point favorite is what Oregon is right now. ESPN FPI also has Oregon pretty heavily, 83% is the prediction there. Then the Vegas prediction also has Oregon 36-20 being the predicted final score right now, heading towards the Oregon side. So all three sources are saying Oregon should get a pretty comfortable win. But I think Stanford, this Stanford team still has a lot of talent that I think could be really big and possibly giving Stanford a run at Oregon, which I don't think. Stanford shouldn't be favored in this matchup, but I think Stanford definitely has a chance to keep this game close for a period of time. Here's a stat comparison for this game, and obviously both teams have not played a game yet this season, which is pretty crazy to think considering we're already in November. But these are your 2019 final stats. Stanford had 21 points per game last season, 26 points allowed, so they did allow more points than they gained last season. They had 210 total pass yards a game, 138 rush yards, and 236 pass yards allowed, then 165 rush yards. So, as far as it goes on Stanford's side, they really have not had, or they didn't have a lot of success last season. They had a decent amount of yards in the passing game, but that was pretty much it. As for Oregon, they had 36 points per game, 24 points allowed. They had lots of pass yards per game, 259 was the average there, 143 rush yards is what they had too. You can't forget about their running back last season. As far as yards allowed go, they had 176 pass yards and then 103 rush yards allowed. So the defensive side was actually pretty good for Oregon last season. Here's some key points. Oregon, obviously, without Justin Herbert now, Tyler Shaw is looking to start a quarterback for the Ducks right now. And Tyler Shaw's a quarterback that really has not had much experience with Oregon so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does in his first game as a Duck coming up on Saturday. So that's going to be a big reason why this is such an intriguing matchup as well. But Stanford looks to have a much better season than 2019. Obviously, Stanford back a few years ago was always a national contender, but the last couple of seasons for Stanford have just been really unsuccessful. So Stanford's hoping to definitely have a better season in 2020 and possibly get back to where they were in the 2014-2015 seasons. How first games have gone for other conferences have been, it's something that you do have to note here. Obviously the Pac-12 is the fifth and final conference in the Power 5 to get going with football. And so, based off of the last four conferences, we've seen a lot of big upsets, and that's something that you do have to notice, especially in the first week of action. For the first games for all of these teams in the Power 5 outside of the Pac-12, we've seen a lot of upsets. So that is something you do have to note here, is that Stanford does genuinely have a chance to win this game. The odds of it happening, I'd say, are decently low, but I definitely think Stanford has got a good shot to win this game. And another thing that we've also seen is the pattern of away teams winning, and the Big Ten is a huge example of that. Last week, I think there were 6 games in the Big Ten last week, and 5 of the 6 games we saw the away teams win, which that is extremely odd in comparison to usual seasons where we would see, I'd say, like 75 to 80% of home teams win the game. So that is something you do have to realize as well, is that Stanford's definitely got a good chance to win this matchup, which Oregon, I think, is the more talented team. Oregon definitely has a better recruiting class. They've got more talent all around. Once again, it's something you do have to know. We've seen lots of crazy upsets this season all over the league, and Auburn and LSU are 2 perfect examples of that. With that being said, here's my prediction for this game. I think Oregon does get the win, and they're going to escape the possibility of Stanford pulling a big upset. And I think Oregon actually wins that pretty comfortably. I think your halftime score is going to be 17-14. We're actually going to see a close game throughout the first half, and it's going to look like Stanford is going to hang around. But I think in the second half, we start to see Oregon pull away. I think we could see a couple of the turnovers that really flip the script on this game. And I think Oregon's going to get the win by a final score of 38-21. So Oregon's a good team, I think. I mean, it just depends on whether or not Tyler Shaw has a good game. If Tyler Shaw throws 2 interceptions and Oregon has to contemplate the possibility of possibly putting in a different quarterback in for Tyler Shaw, I think Oregon has got a chance that they do lose this game. But if Tyler Shaw doesn't throw any interceptions, and I think if Oregon can win the turnover ratio, we should see Oregon easily get the win in this game. I mean, once again, as far as it goes on recruiting, Oregon hands down has a better recruiting class coming in this season. So that is something you do have to note as well. But then again, that wraps up my prediction on this matchup. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. This should probably be, I'd say, the Pac-12 game of the week coming up in Week 10. Obviously, it's great to see the Pac-12 back. I mean, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 were the 2 conferences that weren't expected to play this season. And it's great to see both conferences playing football once again. And I'm glad I get to preview these teams. But once again, if you enjoyed this preview, slap a like on it, subscribe as well. Really helps the channel and really appreciate that. But as always, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central, and I'll see you all later.